Oh, we should do a radio show. I don't know, 3 hours or so.
It's a rainy day. Why not?
That's gross out. So gross, you guys. Welcome in the Rob Brown Show's on the radio. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Great to be with you. Happy whatever today is. What is it, Wednesday, I think? I don't know. Just lost track of it all.
Daggone Wednesday day.
Take off 2 weeks. I forget how time works. It's all right. We're going to get through it.
Well, the look outside doesn't help with the dismal feeling that some people are, but let us brighten your day. By Rob's voice. I know my voice doesn't do that, but Rob's voice will wake you up.
Time and birds aren't real. It's gross out. By the way,
if birds were real, they'd be in the rain right now, but they're not, are they?
True. I saw a traffic accident on the way to work. Like, saw it happen today. Did not like that.
So you were a witness.
Yep. 385. Headed out of Taylor's towards work, right at the Roper Mountain Road exit. Saw a couple of cars get into a smash them up, bang them up. About 3 cars ahead of me. Pulled off. This was at, I don't know, 6:45. Pulled off to the side of the road, made sure the 2 drivers were okay. Waited till the Popo showed up, and then got around them, got off at Roper, which is not the exit I get off at. Point of all this is, be careful out there, people. All right? Put your damn phone down.
You know the bad part about this? You can say be careful. All these radio stations, turn your lights on, keep your the people who aren't careful, they're not going to listen. They're just not. I mean, I guess you got to hope and wish that there's one person out there that goes, Rob said I should be you know what? He's right. Let me not follow so close to a car in a rainstorm with heavy water on the. Let me do a car's length like I'm supposed to. Let me not turn my hazards on because I think it's the right thing to do, even though it makes my car less visible. Let me do a lot of things that I should do because someone told me to be careful. I mean, maybe you could open up some eyes. But the sad part is the people who do all that, they're going to do it anyway.
I don't know, man. Like, I look at it with the hope of somebody's driving down the road. They're not thinking. They're treating it like a normal day. And, you snap their attention back to the reality of a gross, nasty, wet day out on the roads, and they get their act together. Here's the thing. If even one person was driving down the interstate, had their phone out, was doing 80 on the wet road, and we started the show, and I went, hey, put your phone down, goob. And they went, you know what? That's I really should. If even one person did that, it was worth it. Just don't be idiots out there. I saw pre the accident on the interstate, 2 separate cars that I drove by in the rain with a person looking at their phone. If it's a day that I had to wear the cowboy boots to work because I wasn't getting the sneaks wet, then put your phone down and text.
Do they actually repel rain?
Oh, yeah.
The cowboy boots do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
I never have, probably never will own a pair of cowboy boots. So I'm just look at that.
The good ones too.
Oh, those look nice. Little worn in the toe, but that just shows you've worn them.
Oh, yeah.
Some. I mean,
These are the boat kickers. These are the motorcycle boots.
Oh, okay. So I was
kickers.
going to say, so that's why they're worn in the front part.
Yeah. Well, that's from the gear shifter on the motorcycle.
Ah, okay.
Look at the other one.
Not from kicking someone in the booty. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Texter says, good morning to the legend in his own mind. Good morning. Great to be with you guys. Welcome in. Hope you're having a good day despite the dreariness outside.
Is it weird that the only way I remember what shirt I'm wearing is by looking at the screen?
Are you okay?
Which you can do too, by the way.
Facebook.com/thefanupstate, Twitter.com/thefanupstate. or search and subscribe to the Rob Brown Show on YouTube or on Twitch. I will have you know that I began the process last night of creating some new video content. I sat in the studio. I cut video on what I am calling, because I am a creative and marketing genius, the Rob Brown Breakdown. I know it rhymes in everything, which is going to be a look at some of the most important plays and moments from different games.
That rhymes about as well as malarkey.
You don't have to deal with any malarkey. That's a great jingle.
It's catchy. It really is.
It's a great jingle. In fairness, we've been singing it since that commercial dropped.
We have
8 minutes ago.
We have.
So I started with the Rob Brown Breakdown, and I pulled up a play by TCU's defense because I wanted to illustrate what I thought when we got placed into the setup for the Michigan TCU semi, where I said, don't be shocked if TCU pulls the upset. And most of y'all told me I was cray-cray. And I filmed for about 45 minutes. I then spent about 2.5 hours editing it down to about 14 minutes.
Ooh, where can I see this?
I spent about 2.5 hours editing it down to about 14 minutes. I got it done. I added some graphics. I dressed it all up. I got it all set and ready. I clicked upload. It said upload finished. So it went dope. And I went and I tried to upload it to YouTube so that I could spread it around. And the entire data file corrupted itself and went bye-bye. So the good news is I still have the 45 minutes that I filmed. The bad news is another 2.5 hours of editing today to then re-upload something I tried to make yesterday. Point of all this is, if you try to better yourself, if you try to improve, if you try to add new stuff, if you try to do more, it will be a waste of time. Don't do that.
Well, I've heard it takes a village. I don't necessarily believe that, but I've heard, I forget who said that. But anyway, so, we've got people in the building who could help you out and would be more than willing to. I'm not talking about me, by the way, because I'm busy. But there's a guy down the hall who's like stuck in the building today, ain't got nothing to do like in between shifts. I'm sure he would love to help you out.
We'll find out.
He's kind of a video expert too. So, I mean, you might want to hit the Terminator up and see if he can give you a hand.
I'll tell you this. You know what the frustrating part was? The frustrating part was the 2.5 hours when I got home yesterday, spent reading articles and watching YouTube videos and learning and educating myself to get to where, all right, now I know how to make a video, how to edit it concisely to where people are going to watch it, how to create the friendliest method of delivery to the algorithm. Got all that done, taught myself how to edit the video, got the video edited, and then it boated the bed on me. So I
wish there was other people in the building who like took the initiative to learn how to do stuff instead of expecting everyone to do it for them. I've spent hours on projects before, actually got them done, watched it and went, man, this is trash, and then didn't put it in. I've done that before, but I'm sure yours is quality, and I hate that I don't get to see it.
Oh, you will. I'm going back today. All right.
You were working on the telestrating and everything yesterday. Is that what you're talking about? Is that part of that video?
Yeah.
Okay. Which looks really cool that you figured out how to do that.
For those of you that don't know what we're talking about.
I'm not being sarcastic. It was really cool. I was watching them do it a little bit.
For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, if you go to the Facebook at facebook.com/thefanupstate, one of the things that I've started to do is to actually diagnose football plays, right? Here's why this worked.
Breaking it down, if you will.
Break it down. Yeah, that. And I put up some pictures yesterday of one of the two reasons that Steve Wilkes will not be back as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers next year. That post is up at the Facebook page, facebook.com/thefanupstate. And it was one particular play. It was the third Mike Evans touchdown scored by Tampa Bay that gave them the lead with just under 8 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter of that football game that eliminated the Panthers from playoff contention. And if you go watch, or if you go look at the post, you'll see, because I quite literally put the arrows down on the field, showed you who was going where, why, gave the full breakdown of the play, which was to say the Carolina defense brought 4, dropped 2 off the line into an underneath zone coverage, and went 1v1 everywhere else, and Tampa had the perfect play drawn up. On the near side of the field, Tampa's right, Carolina's left. They had Godwin and Evans. Evans lined up to the outside, Godwin in the slot. They had one-on-one man v man defense lined out there. Godwin ran a 5-yard out right to the first down marker. Mike Evans just hit the turbo button, full throttle afterburner down the sideline. And it created a situation where C.J. Henderson, who had been getting roasted all day, had to just run with Mike Evans. And it created a spot where the safety had to make a decision. That decision was, do I, A, step up and trail Godwin over to the sticks, leaving Henderson 1v1 with no help over the top against Mike Evans, who has been torching the defense so far today? Or option 2, do I bail out deep, stay over the top, prevent the deep ball to Mike Evans, but give up the guaranteed first down and probably another 10 to 15 yards down the sideline to Chris Godwin? The safety decided to step up, take away the underneath to Godwin. It left Evans on an island with Henderson down the right sideline. Brady never even looked to his left. Took the snap, looked right, waited for the safety to make the decision. When he stepped up to Godwin, he just floated it to the corner to Evans. Touchdown Buccaneers. Season over for the Cats. So I illustrated all that out. I got the arrows on the field to kind of break it down. It's really, listen, for those of you that are big-time football guys that can watch these plays and see them, it's not for you. That's not to say I won't be making content that is for you, but it's not for you. The Rob Brown Breakdown is for people who watch football at an elementary or sophomoric level and want to learn a little bit more, want to understand why the game plays out the way the game plays out. So I made the video about the 4th and goal on the opening Michigan drive. Remember where they went the Philly special? And it failed miserably. It failed miserably because of something that I really like out of the TCU defense. TCU's defense is remarkably well-disciplined. Remarkably well-disciplined. And you'll see this video. I'll have it posted up hopefully this afternoon, maybe this evening. But both defensive ends, who weren't defensive ends, it was a linebacker walked up to a stand-up edge rusher on the right, and a corner or safety walked up on the left as a stand-up edge rusher. Both those guys have to keep contained. That is, get up the field. Do not dive down into the backfield. Make sure that you funnel the ball carrier up through the middle of the field. And if they try to get the ball across your face, take a pursuit angle to the outside so they don't do that. They went to the right. the stand-up edge rusher, the cornerback in that spot, maintained his contain, sprinted out to the left. The quarterback stepped up, put his heels on the goal line, kept any receiver routes, in this case, J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback, out of the end zone, locked him up. The linebackers flowed, great pursuit angle right down the goal line. TCU's discipline defensively kept them in that game. And I'll break that down for you. That video will be up this evening. I just have to spend another 2.5 hours editing it down for you. You're welcome. So that'll be up this afternoon. Make sure you're paying attention to that. If you're not already done so, subscribe to the Rob Brown Show on YouTube. And if you miss it there, the link to or the embedded video will be available on Facebook and Twitter within a couple of minutes of it going hot on YouTube. But as this texter said, all of that is to say, take the Homer Simpson lesson to one Bart Simpson. Never try. If you try, you'll fail.
Well, I think I'm obligated to say there is no try. I mean, come on.
Do or do not. All right. Speaking of let's go to a break. And when we come back, we had, speaking of your Carolina Panthers, a little bit of interesting news that developed yesterday afternoon. After the L2 TCU by the Michigan Wolverines, the story started to develop that Jim Harbaugh, if he was offered an NFL job, would leave Michigan, as we thought he would do last year. The Vikings ultimately decided not to offer him the gig, so he stayed at UM. Well, now the story is he's had enough. He's ready to go back to the league. He'll take a job if one is offered. And who is the first team that got into direct contact? The owner of the team reaching out to Jim Harbaugh? I'll tell you next. Rob, Lonzo, you, teasers, the Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. All right, internet people. How we doing? Good to be with you guys. Let's see what we got here. If there are audio issues on Facebook, it is not because of us.
Yes, I checked and everything is, how it should be, as far as I know.
Brandon said, trying to sober up Sunday morning and watch my Falcons give it the old college try, and I kept getting game breaks from the Carolina game, but it felt like they showed me the same play 3 times in that Bucks game, just at different times in the game. Damn, I hate Brady. Right side all 3 times. Hard to watch. Not as hard for you as it was for Carolina fans, Brandon. It wasn't just that Mike Evans was having a career day. And it wasn't just that Mike Evans was having a career day on a day where it was win or off season for the Panthers, but it was that the defense ran the same play over and over. And I don't care if it's Brady or Breeze or Tagovailoa or Desmond Ridder or anybody else. If you show that same look to an NFL caliber quarterback multiple times, they're going to beat you. And you showed it to the GOAT. That's why Steve Wilkes won't be the head coach next year. We'll talk more about that coming up here in just uno momento.
That's when Dr. Herzog switched his focus from surgery to helping his patients with natural biologics. I treated at least 5,000 patients.
I just learned a new word I didn't know.
What word would that be?
Inveterate.
Wow.
Having a particular habit, activity, or interest that is long established and unlikely to change. Inveterate. Inveterate. uh.
864-448-3772.
Hi, it's Gary David back with Travis Benson, owner of C&T Foundations. Travis, which is homeowners with a foundation problem there? First, Gary, don't ignore it. Next, call us. Why call C&T Foundations? We're not an investor.
You know, we discussed this a little bit in the last Views from Mint Street podcast, James, about the other possibilities and where would be the best spot for him. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that coming up. Yeah, I know where I'd go, and it wouldn't be where it's cold, but that's just me.
Coming up on a hump day episode of Offsides with Mark Ryan and Diesel, our final upset pick standings will be revealed. Way too early look at Clemson and South Carolina's 2023 schedule.
Really?
All on a hump day episode.
Wow.
Number one for real afternoon sports talk.
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
Glad we're the NFL show. We actually have something to talk about.
So after Michigan fell to TCU in the college football playoff semifinal, it took only a handful of hours before the reports began to circulate that Jim Harbaugh would accept a National Football League job and leave the Michigan Wolverines if there was an NFL offer on the table. And of course, right now, though the list may grow, there are 3 teams that are looking for a new head coach. The Denver Broncos, after firing Nathaniel Hackett, the Indianapolis Colts, although Jim Irsay says that Jeff Saturday is being considered as the head coach. L-O bleeping L.
Wonder what Colts fans think about that.
I have jokes, I'm not going to make them because the Colts are the joke. I can't have a better punchline than Jim Irsay is looking at maintaining the services of Jeff Saturday. I can't write a better joke. And of course, the third team looking for a new head coach is our own Carolina Panthers. Now, that's not to say those will be the only 3 teams that are looking for a new head coach when the NFL season comes to its conclusion in the next few weeks. But those are the 3 that decided to get a jump and keep an eye on the coaching carousel's early development. Jim Harbaugh spent some time in San Francisco. He arrived. He went to 3 straight NFC championship games. He coached a Super Bowl for the 49ers. And then he unceremoniously left the team after an 8-8 performance in his final year out on the Bay.
You know, Hook Said and Real on YouTube, by the way, you can watch us on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Twitter, says, I don't think I want him coaching the Panthers. You know, I was curious because I thought that Harbaugh had a pretty good NFL record. He was 44-19-1. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. Took the team to the Super Bowl. Steve Wilkes didn't do that. You know, I for now, he is the name out there in the NFL, and he will be sought after, and we'll see if he shops around or just makes a quick decision. I, as an Ohio State fan, have no problem with Jim Harbaugh being the coach of the Carolina Panthers, because for one thing, that means he's not in Michigan anymore, and he beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. And the other reason is he's a pretty good NFL coach. Whether you like the college that he's from, he's a pretty good NFL coach. And Everybody's going to want him.
So the first team that reached out to Jim Harbaugh, according to reports that have begun to surface, David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers. Now, a couple of NFL talking heads have said that it was not an interview. It was just a conversation. But I can't suspect that the owner of an NFL team, a billionaire hedge fund manager and real estate developer who is looking for a home run hire as the head coach of his franchise, who is looking for some notoriety as the owner of a franchise, called Jim Harbaugh to find out what his favorite coffee shops are.
Maybe they're golfing buddies. Maybe he called to give him condolences on the fact that he lost to TCU. Maybe he's just like, that was tough, guy. I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you. And come on. How's it not an interview?
It's what I would call a preemptive interview, right?
Is it like I call Rob up and say, hey, I know you have 27 jobs, but there's this thing over here you might be interested in for your 28th. It's not really an interview, but I'm just pointing out, hey, that there's something that you might like to do over here. And if you wanted to talk to me about it, we could talk about it.
When I put in for this gig, first person I reached out to was Mark Ryan. And I reached out to Mark, honestly, to ask him to listen to a demo reel. Because when I left the job in Jacksonville, scratch that, when the job in Jacksonville left me, when I was done working in Jacksonville, I said, one more crack at radio. I'm going to take one more shot. And if it doesn't work out, it just means the dream wasn't meant to be, and I'll move on to something else. I'll go back into public relations or something. So I called Mark to have him listen to the demo. He said, send it over. About 3 days later, I got a call from the guy who is now my boss. And it was not an interview. He just wanted to have a conversation. That's an interview, man. It's not an official one. It's not on the record.
Hey,
it's not let me run over the compensation offer.
Yeah. A conversation with the guy down the hall it's lengthy.
Yeah, it's an interview. This was an interview. Now, I said yesterday on Facebook, and I stand by it, the performance of the Carolina Panther defense, and I understand they are banged up and injured. Somebody on the book took me to task after I made the post breaking down the Mike Evans third touchdown. Somebody took me to task and said, it's the GOAT torching a banged-up Carolina defense. Yeah, I know they're hurt, but here's the thing. If you know your defense is banged up, if you know there's a lot of injuries, step number one is definitely adjust the defense to do the best you can to cover up the weaknesses. They did the opposite. They played a defense that exposed the weaknesses to Tom Brady and tried to highlight the strengths. Hey, let's try to create a situation where Shaq and Burns and Brown and Gross Matos can create more pressure on Brady. But they did it at the expense of exposing the cornerbacks, the safeties, and Brady smoked them for it. That's bad coaching. That's why I said yesterday on the show, that's why I said on the social media that I genuinely believe Steve Wilkes will not be the head coach next year. He'll get interviewed, but he won't be the coach.
Why should he get interviewed? Isn't this like an interview, the season that he just coached? I don't see why he needs to get an interview unless he's obligated and has to give him one. He had the interview when we see the results.
Here's the part that I'm going to push back on that. This is not Steve Wilkes' team. It is not Steve Wilkes' coaching staff. The team is bad. He got handed the keys to a bad team.
He also had the authority to make changes, which he did right away. And he could have brought in more coaches. And he said in press conferences that he had the power to do that. And he did not. That's on him.
Steve Wilkes did not have roster changing power. That was all Matt Rule. We saw the evidence of that with video clips of Matt Rule during the 2 drafts he was in charge of making calls.
I would say roster changing power is sending your best player off to San Francisco, allowing
That was a correct decision.
allowing a quarterback who asked for a release to have a release because you guys didn't get along.
That
apparently.
was a correct decision.
But that's roster power. I mean, you can't bring anybody in the middle of this.
Here, let me rephrase that. Steve Wilkes had roster shaping power, not building power. There's a difference. If there's a house that's already built, I can go in and hang stuff on the walls and move the furniture around, but I can't change the shape of the house.
He brought in Josh Norman last week. That's bringing somebody in.
The Panthers brought in Josh Norman because they didn't have a choice.
Did they?
Yes.
Did they? Was it them or was it he deciding?
Speculation at best, but I'm going to say the contract doesn't get signed without Fitterer being involved with it.
Listen, I don't have a vendetta against Steve Wilkes. I was told that he was going to be good. He was not.
Nope, scratch.
He did not equal.
He
equaled Matt Rule. He didn't do better.
With 5 games that he was not the head coach in an NFL season.
Wow.
Lonzo,
Let's see. That means he had 12 more after that. I know he still has 1 more. So, but he had 11.
If I ask you to take a test that you've got to get an 80% grade on, and I say you get to take it once, and I get to take the same test, but I get to take it 5 times and plan accordingly and adjust every time.
This analogy does not work.
It does work.
It does not.
How many games did Matt Rule have in his 2 seasons as the head coach? 16 and 17. How many games did Steve Wilkes get as a head coach? 12. And he won as many games as Matt Rule did with 16 and 17 in 12. That is better. Win percentage is better.
It's not better.
His
it's
season
not.
win percentage
it's not better.
is better than You're wrong, man. With all due respect.
It's not.
You're
You
wrong.
don't have to be respectful. It's not better. It's not better. It's not. You're just not going to sell me on this.
Is his win percentage higher, yes or no?
I would say that the majority of fans, probably all Panther fans, agree with me.
Is his win percentage higher? Yes or no?
I got Steiner math going on over here. I don't know what kind of math you got going on, so I don't know.
12 a higher percentage than 5 of 17.
All I know is I'm just a normal guy sitting over here who watches a football game and goes, "This is not better." That's all I know. You can throw percentages and stats and all that kind of stuff out there. The team did not get better. It did not.
First off, the hell they did.
No, they did.
Are you kidding me?
How many more wins did they get? How many more wins did they get than what Matt Rule did?
Except 1.
Did what Matt? Okay.
This year,
okay.
all of the wins except 1 in a season in which the Panthers were until this weekend in the playoff.
Can't believe you're fighting for this. I cannot believe you're fighting for this.
Let me be abundantly clear on this. I am not titillated by the choice of Steve Wilkes as the head coach. Okay? I think there's a hell of a lot of worse options. I think there's 2 or 3 that are better. And Jim Harbaugh is one of them. Let's go ahead and get to that point right out of the gate. My take is Wilkes is the guy unless there is a home run hire. Jim Harbaugh is that if you can get him. I defend Steve Wilkes because I do think Steve Wilkes should get an opportunity as a head coach in the NFL. I think he's good enough. Okay? I don't know if it's with Carolina or not. If Jim Harbaugh is available, it's not. Jim Harbaugh's not available, maybe it is. But to say that the team is not better under Wilkes than Rule is ludicrous and factually, empirically incorrect.
It's not. I don't know about the empirically part, but you can.
Don't worry. I do.
Okay, because I just think Star Wars when you say empirically. But
is the team that played the Detroit Lions 2 weeks ago better than the team that beat the New Orleans Saints in week 3? Yes or no?
All teams,
yes or no?
All teams progressively get better or they get worse. That's just a matter of a season.
Get better or get worse?
That's again.
So
this is
what you just said.
You are
using gets better or worse.
You're doing that thing that you do. You're doing that thing that you do.
What?
And that's fine.
Against you?
It's not working.
It's not
working.
You just said every team gets better or worse. That's is that not what you said?
That's a good point, Kevin. He had an entire season and couldn't win there either. He's not.
He had an entire season.
He's not.
Where
He's
he was
not
allowed to pick his own.
You know, is he a
motivator?
Is he a motivator of men?
Stepped on his decision.
Is he a motivator of
Very
men?
clearly, yes.
Absolutely, he is. But he can't motivate them to win. That's what he can't do, and that's all that matters. It's about wins. It's about wins. You got 5 wins.
5 times.
Wow, dude, you're fighting over a guy who won 5 games. He won 5 games. That's it. I don't care if he's the greatest guy in the world. You can't win. You need to be out.
Did you expect Steve Wilkes to come in and win 9 down the stretch? Like, what was an expectation?
You talked up Steve Wilkes a great deal on the Views from Mint Street podcast. Make sure that you subscribe. Yeah, you talked him up a bunch. You almost had me convinced, and I kept saying that I will not support him till he can surpass Matt Rule, and he hasn't done that. And I'm not even sure they're going to win this week
with 5 less opportunities than Matt Rule.
That's just ridiculous.
It's not. If I give you 10 chances to do something, you're going to be more successful than if I give you 5 chances to do something. That's just how numbers work.
No, if you're good and you're better than the person before you, you don't need as many chances. No, he's not. He's not. He is not. No, he's not.
If Matt Rule wins 5 games out of 16 and then 5 games out of 17, and Steve Wilkes wins 5 out of 12, he's better.
And if a bus leaves Greenville at 2 a.m. and arrives in Detroit at 9:30 the next day, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to go word problems when all I'm talking about is the eye test. The eye test, and Carolina Panthers fan, which I am one, will agree with me that Steve Wilkes is not the guy, including Rashad Beard, who was on last time we were on, which was a couple of weeks ago, also didn't agree with Steve Wilkes being the guy. The only one who seems to be so supportive of Steve Wilkes is you.
First off, again, let me be clear and say this very, very sternly. If you can hire Jim Harbaugh, you hire Jim Harbaugh. Okay?
Here's the talking down portion where you go down and you calm down. You know, Lonzo, you're not very smart.
Because you just said I'm arguing for Steve Wilkes.
You are arguing.
No, I'm not. I'm arguing for Jim Harbaugh.
Seem like you're arguing for Steve Wilkes.
But I'm saying if Jim Harbaugh is unavailable, Steve Wilkes is toward the top of my list of candidates.
Must be a bad list.
And I'm saying
we've seen an example of what you get with him. I want someone to come in and actually win games.
And I'm saying that if you
more than 5 games,
if you think that this team is not better under Wilkes than Rule, you are wrong. They definitively
they've won 5 games.
Empirically, provably
but mathematically they are not.
No, mathematically they definitely are.
How?
Win percentage.
No.
They won more games in less time under Wilkes than Rule his entire career.
All right, last year they won 5 games. This year they won 5 games. That's not better. It's not.
In less games. How does that escape you?
It's when we look at records, it doesn't matter. Oh, well, they look really good doing it. Okay, they still lost.
That's what you said about TCU.
Pretty happy about those success. Do you really think you won that by doing that? That was a good hit, by the way.
Hang on, it's still going.
Is it?
I can't. It's over the horizon. I can't see.
Did you like hit the hit the hibachi restaurant over there? I
pulled something in my back. Oh, I hate getting old. Let's take a break. Well, please, someone please text or call or tweet the show and tell Lonzo that this team is better under Wilkes than it ever was under Rule.
Doing that tone thing again.
Will someone please?
That's the sexy voice, man. You can't do that.
Someone tell Lonzo he's wrong. I need you to prove to him that I'm right. Please. Let's take a break. We got 1 segment left in this hour. We probably should talk about Jim Harbaugh since we opened it with let's talk about Jim Harbaugh and then talked about Steve Wilkes. Let's talk Jim Harbaugh when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
By the way, I'm not sure, Kevin, that Mark could pick up any of these chairs. They're pretty heavy. You know, he's getting older, and And no, before you ask, we're not going to talk about wrestling. It was a sports debate, okay? I still don't get it. I could just be dense and it's the rain and I don't know. I don't know how 5 is better than 5 when it's still 5. Rob just went, according to win percentages. I'm sure he'll come back in nice and calm. I never tried to spell that, James, but that's exactly how I think that would have been spelled. Did he? That hasn't worked out too well for him lately. He could have, though. That's a good point. I just hope he comes back before the break is over. All right, I feel better. I just saw a baby hippo dancing in the rain on the internet because that's what the internet's good for, is baby hippos dancing in the rain. He looks, or she looks like, I don't know, it looks like they're having a good time, though. Should I show it to him? It'll make him feel better, too.
Oh, God.
I'm watching baby hippos dance in the rain. Just because apparently, Cincinnati Zoo things are popping up on my Twitter. I never looked at anything zoo-wise, but that's fine. I did just mention I was from Ohio on the radio, though. So my phone heard it.
What? I haven't even said anything yet. Lonzo just gave me this look like, go ahead, smartass. Go ahead. All right. So, Jim Harbaugh was obviously remarkably successful with the San Francisco 49ers 4 seasons, as Lonzo mentioned, 44-19 during his time there. Included 3 NFC championship appearances, 1 NFC championship, and a Super Bowl appearance where he and his Niners played his brother Jim and the Baltimore Ravens. Jim Harbaugh was successful. Do you remember who his quarterbacks were? Alex Smith
and what's his name?
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, that guy.
Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick.
By the way, I legitimately did forget his name now, wasn't it? I just, yeah.
two guys that were both in their prime good, but not great, right? Alex Smith was good before he had the leg injury. Colin Kaepernick was good, led the Super Bowl run before the drama that surrounded his career and either got him blacklisted from the NFL or made him too spicy of a player for teams to want to take a risk on signing. Anyway, Jim Harbaugh took those quarterbacks, made a run, got to a Super Bowl, got to two other NFC championship games. His last year, the year that he walked away from San Francisco, he was 8-8. For the record, 8-8, likely going to have been good enough to at least play a Week 18 showdown for the NFC South this year.
And mathematically better than both Rule and Wilkes.
Correct.
Not sure what the winning percentage is, but it's
You don't know what
better.
the winning percentage of 8-8 is, Lonzo? I think you can work that one out.
Ooh. Burn.
Anyway, Jim Harbaugh is the hire, right? But I think right now there is, regarding the direction the Carolina Panthers franchise can go, there's a lot of disagreement. Hell, there's disagreement on this show. I think there's disagreement just between me and also me. There are spots where I'm conflicted about the right decision to make.
Yeah, when them voices start fighting, it's rough in your head.
They talk to me. They understand. They talk to me. Anyway, Jim Harbaugh's the right hire. As I said, I think Steve Wilkes, I probably should have phrased it this way. I said this is the reason Wilkes won't be the head coach next year. I should probably phrase it this way. That game against Tampa might not be the reason that Steve Wilkes isn't the head coach next year. It is the reason that he is now just another candidate, right? I think it went from he is the front runner to he's another candidate. And if he's just another candidate, Jim Harbaugh's right there. That's the right hire. But even if Steve Wilkes had beat Tampa this weekend, I'll even go a step further and say, even if Steve Wilkes had beat Tampa this weekend and New Orleans this upcoming weekend and won the division, Jim Harbaugh is still the right hire next year.
Now, see, that's the thing, and I completely agree with you. Just because of his record and what he's been able to do in the NFL, he's definitely looks like he's a better coach. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I know if I had to choose, I'd go with Harbaugh, and it hurts me to say.
Jim Harbaugh and the success he had in San Francisco. You know, if San Francisco had a Tom Brady, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Peyton Manning,
You know, speaking
Patrick Mahomes.
Speaking of Drew Brees, if you had to pick between a former coach of New Orleans or Jim Harbaugh, who would you pick?
Sean Payton. I'd take Sean Payton. The thing is, I don't think Sean Payton is a reality. I think Jim Harbaugh is.
And Sean Payton comes with, it's going to cost you to get him.
It's going to cost you. You're going to have to give up, at the very least, your first round pick in this year's draft. And Sean Payton is going to want to select his own quarterback, which means not only are you going to have to go up your first rounder, but then you're going to have to throw significant salary money at another guy. Now, Sean Payton might be a cog that gets Lamar Jackson out of Baltimore and down to Charlotte, right? Guy like Lamar might go, an offensive mind like Sean Payton is going to build the offense for and around me and get me to a couple of Pro Bowls. That's worth it. Jim Harbaugh probably doesn't have the appeal for a guy like Lamar that Sean Payton does.
Well, because he's playing for his brother, and that would, there might be a problem there.
Well, and just the fact that while Jim Harbaugh obviously did some good things with San Francisco's offense, Sean Payton is a guy that's known for, during his time in New Orleans, doing some incredible things with an offense. Jim Harbaugh, more of a well-rounded all-around coach.
And
right?
it still comes down to, if Harbaugh's got to make a choice between Denver and the Panthers, who does he choose? Does he go with Russell Wilson? Or does he go with basically nobody, but with the opportunity to bring somebody in that you want?
There, by the way, is a lot of conversation taking place right now about Russ Wilson. In what I think is a fair question, did Russ flame out this year because Russ is bad now? Or did Russ flame out this year because Nathaniel Hackett was such a drain on that program?
Wilson had a pretty good game last week.
Yep.
Against the Chiefs.
Without Nathaniel Hackett for the first time.
We'll see what he does this week.
If he balls out a second time, I think we can say probably more Hackett than Russ, right? But at the same time, you got to keep in mind, Russ is at the tail end of his career. If you bring in a new coach, he's going to want to bring in a QB that's going to be there for a hot minute. Lamar's in that camp. CJ and Bryce are in that camp, right? And I think it's fair to say, would Jim Harbaugh tell David Tepper, I am in the minute you put a package together to get one of the top 2 draft picks so I can get CJ or Bryce? Told you guys the other day, I think CJ Stroud made himself the first overall draft pick with that performance in the loss to Georgia. But Bryce Young has been consistent for a couple of years now. Anyway, Jim Harbaugh is the right decision here. I'm not going to argue that he's going to show up and immediately replicate the success that he had with San Francisco. I am going to say, with DJ Moore, with Shi Smith, with Deontay Foreman, with Chuba Hubbard, with Blackshear, with Tremble, who stepped up, had a couple of big catches over the past couple of weeks. And with an offensive line that, despite melting down against Tampa this past weekend, has been pretty good overall all year long. If you are a Jim Harbaugh, if you are a Sean Payton, and I've said this repeatedly and we'll say it again here, as of today, the Carolina Panthers are easily the most attractive head coaching job in the league. You have got a lot of good young talent in a division that I suspect will be wide open for the taking next year. The rumors continuing to grow that Tom Brady will be playing for a new franchise next year. The Saints' chickens have come home to roost, and Atlanta's Atlanta. The Colts are playing in a mid-tier division, but with not a lot of talent on the roster to build around. The Broncos are in, if not the best division in football, no worse than the second, with Herbert and Mahomes to contend with, and potentially Tom Brady next year, because there's talk that the Raiders might emerge as a suitor for the GOAT to finish up his career. If you are a head coaching candidate, Harbaugh, Payton, otherwise, Carolina's the most attractive job in the National Football League right now, and that's not a debate. That's a statement. Back after this for Hour 2 of the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
Who knows, Kevin? The Texans may be the Texans and trade out of first place. Go, we're okay with the quarterback we got.
Hell yeah. Davis Mills, baby.
Thank you. I knew it started with a D. I just couldn't remember the name.
BABBEL.com, Babbel.com.
Are boomers more cringy than millennials? Is Gen Z more woke than Gen X? Is there any hope of bridging our generational divides? Odyssey's new podcast, It's Generational, brings together actual people from these four generations for real conversations about today's issues. I'm Lauren Berry, and I'm inviting
I appreciate people looking out for me, but after my phone call yesterday, I got an email from somebody, and I don't know who it was, saying I saw this job that I thought you might be interested in. It's in Little Rock, Arkansas. And they were like, I think you would fit. I think you should put in for it. My first reaction was obviously, no, I'm good. But then I got to thinking about it, and I was like, did they send me that because they're like, hey, what a job opportunity advancement for Rob Brown? Or did they send it to me, GTFO, dude?
It's probably the same guy.
Yep. The Mills Mafia. Ah, nice job, James.
No. That's not funny, Hudson. If you mean Tom Brady, no.
It's a possibility.
No.
It's absolutely a possibility.
What's that? It's a free app that gives you back real money for every gallon of gas you see. I just earned 25 cents back on every gallon I spent. Hold on. So the Upside app is free and you actually get cash back every time you use it? No strings attached? Yep, it's awesome. Check it out. It only takes a couple of minutes to sign up. Instead of just watching your dollars go into your tank, start putting money back into your wallet with the free app from Upside. With the price of gas today, it's big news and big money. To cash out of your Upside cash, just transfer it to your bank account.
Start that Brady to the Panther stuff. It caused me to have a bad day. What are you doing?
Download the free Upside app and get cash back on every gallon of gas. Use promo code GOLF for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill out. That's code GOLF. Use code GOLF.
Unless, of course, you want me to have a bad day. Stop it, Roger. That's a good question, Jesse. The problem is, who knows? There have been quarterbacks coming out of college that look like, oh, man, they're ready. They've been in a pro-style offense. They're going to come in. It's going to be like, and then it doesn't happen. And then you get a guy like Joe Burrow where he comes in and it did happen. And I have bias, so I can't answer this question without my bias. Rob does not. He could answer the question if he looked at the question.
CJ. I like Bryce a lot. CJ's a star. CJ can be Lamar with a better arm. Bryce reads the defense remarkably well, and I think at the NFL, that's still the most important quality of a quarterback. CJ can read a defense really well, but can also move to shift the way that defenses are lined up.
You're so wrong, dude. Don't make me laugh out loud. I don't do that often.
So the Rob Brown Show starts right now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Hey, while I got you for a second, let me remind you that coming up tonight, right here on the Fan Upstate, Furman basketball, as they get set to take on the Citadel in SoCon play pregame at 6:30. Tip at 7. The legendary Dan Scott will be on the call as Furman takes on the Citadel tonight. But that's not all the play-by-play we got lined up for you over the next few days. How about the weekend slate of play-by-play here on the Fan Upstate? Saturday afternoon, East Tennessee State takes on Furman. Pregame at 3:30, tip at 4 right here on the Fan Upstate. When that game is over, we will roll on over into an AFC South matchup as Jacksonville and Tennessee will get it on. Coverage starts at 8 o'clock Saturday night. Then on Sunday, we have got the season finale for the Carolina Panthers on our sister station, Classic Rock 101.1 WROQ, when the Carolina Panthers travel to the Big Easy to take on New Orleans. Coverage starts at noon of that game, and the Carolina kickoff with my guy Diesel starts at 11. Then on Sunday, a triple header lined up for you. Miami versus the Jets. Coverage going to start at noon 30. When Miami and New York go final, we will roll it over into the NFC East finale when Dallas takes on Washington. Coverage at 3:45. And then we cap the night off with Detroit versus Green Bay. Coverage starts at 7:30. Your home for Furman football and basketball for the NFL, and all of it you can handle is right here on the Fan Upstate. Before we get into the next couple of topics, I have found a new favorite thing today. Tom Brady is likely leaving the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the end of the year. Tom Brady could have one more stop in him before he calls it a career, should he decide to go for one more season. We have started to look at potential landing destinations for Tom Brady if he was to play one more. I have given you a couple. One of them, go back to New England. Imagine the banners and trumpets should TB12 make his way back to New England. Then we talk about Las Vegas. Raiders. Derek Carr es no más and Las Vegas. He is done. They have benched him for the final 2 weeks of the regular season. The reason why, they want to move on. Derek Carr must be released before, I think it's the Monday after the Super Bowl, to save that team something like $30 million against the cap. Derek Carr will be gone. The Raiders, alongside Devontae Adams, will be looking for a new QB. Tom Brady could end up there. But there's another team that I want you to keep your eye on that Tom Brady could land. And I know that my guy Hudson on the live stream has been dropping it as a joke to rile up the great one. But allow me to take it one step further and tell you.
This has to do with our debate last hour.
He's
just wanting to come at me with this stuff. That's what it is.
It does not. And I mean this in all sincerity. If the Carolina Panthers can land Jim Harbaugh, but to even up the odds, more likely Sean Payton, I could see Tom Brady deciding to move in division and be the quarterback in Charlotte next year to play his final year, ? In the silver and blue for Carolina. I am not being facetious. I am not making a joke for comedy's sake. And as much fun as it is to poke the bear, that is the great one, I am not doing it to agitate Lonzo. I am telling you that if Harbaugh or Payton were to end up in Charlotte next year, I genuinely believe that Tom Brady is a potential reality for 1 year. Now, do I think Carolina wants to make that move? Do I think that's a move they jump towards? Probably not, because you are going to have to pump a ton of money towards Tom Brady, and that limits what you can do for the future. Tom Brady would be a one-year rental. But with the talent you have at wide receiver, with the talent you have at offensive line, a one-year rental in an NFC South that is going to be wide open next year, and knowing Tom Brady's ability to bring talent towards him, to have talent gravitate towards wherever he is playing. Tom Brady in Carolina, even on a one-year rental, and then worry about the quarterback the year after that, would suit me just fine.
You know that thing where celebrities, and I'm not counting myself as a celebrity, where celebrities go, if he becomes president, I'm moving to Canada. Or if that person does that, I'm moving to Siberia.
Siberia?
Yeah, it's the next thing that popped in my head. If Tom Brady becomes a Carolina Panther, I will pack up all my Panther gear and put it away. And for the year or whatever time he's there, I will not be a Panther fan. I will be anti-Panther. And you guys can hold me accountable. You won't see any more Panther gear, or you won't hear me talk favorably about the Panthers if Tom Brady becomes a Panther.
We had a good run on views from Mint Street, ladies and gentlemen.
But you know why I can say this? Because Tom Brady is not going to be a Panther. That's come on.
Oh, for the record.
Come on.
For the record, they are long odds. Okay? I think a return to New England is very likely. I think a debut in Las Vegas is likely. If, and this is a big if, because I don't think it's the case. I don't think it's going to happen. But there are a couple of beat reporters down in New Orleans that have stated that Mickey Loomis and the Saints are going to make a push, if Sean Payton wants to return to the NFL, to just take back over in New Orleans. We will make Dennis Allen back into the DC. We will put Sean Payton back as the HC, give him some time in that role. And if he was to go there, because remember, before he signed with Tampa, a lot of NFL talking heads believed that, and this is before Sean Payton left, but a lot of NFL talking heads believed that with Sean Payton at the helm in New Orleans, that New Orleans was the likely destination for Tom Brady. Then obviously Sean Payton stepped away. You had all of the discussion about the tampering accusations against the Miami Dolphins involved with all of that. And he ended up in Tampa. New Orleans was the most likely landing spot. The Miami Dolphins were number 2. The tampering stuff came out. That's when Brady did the fake retirement thing, because all of those rumors finally came to light a year and a half later. If Sean Payton goes back to New Orleans or wherever he goes, whether it's Vegas, Denver, Chicago, that becomes a likely landing spot for Tom Brady as well. But that includes Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not saying it's likely. In fact, I don't think that it is. I think it's unlikely that Sean Payton is the coach of the Panthers. I think it's unlikely that Tom Brady lands here. But it's 100% a possibility. Think about it right now. If you're Tom Brady and you leave Tampa, your landing spots are not the same as they were when he left New England and ended up with the Bucs, right? It's not the same. It's a lot different because Tom Brady is now older. Tom Brady is now playing on a year-to-year basis. When he came down to Tampa, they knew they were going to have him for 3, maybe 4 years. Now, you know that Tom Brady is a year-to-year situation at this point. So if you're a team that's about to hit the turnaround, are you going to take a 42, 43, 44-year-old quarterback on a year-to-year basis, who, by the way, is not playing his best football this year? Or are you going to roll the dice on a C.J. Stroud or a Bryce Young? Are you going to spend more money on a Lamar Jackson, a guy that's towards the beginning of their career that you might be able to lock up for 8, 9, 10 seasons and build a dynasty around? A lot of teams are going to opt for the latter, not the former. But if you're Carolina and you land a Harbaugh or a Peyton, and here's the kicker, because I think this is where a lot of this stems from. David Tepper, and I think I'm qualified to say this, somebody who does this gig and somebody who's got the pod and all that. If we ranked owner popularity in the NFL by the fan base, Lonzo, where do you think David Tepper ranks in the list of popular NFL owners today?
I don't know how many other places know who David Tepper is.
No. I'm saying amongst your own fan base. Like the percentage of Carolina fans that approve of the job David Tepper's doing.
Probably not very favorable.
No. David Tepper's toward the bottom of the NFL in terms of favorability of owners by fans. I'm comfortable saying that. I'm confident saying that. Tepper understands that to turn that around, and as I've said before, and I'll say again, billionaires only become billionaires because they are sociopaths. There are no non-sociopathic billionaires. You have to be willing to step on throats to become a billionaire. It's not an option. David Tepper understands, scratch that. David Tepper bought this NFL team as an investment, okay? He didn't buy it because he's a lifelong Panthers fan. He didn't buy it because he's got the cat logo tattooed on his butt cheek. He bought this team as an investment. Investments.
How do you know?
It's a guess.
Okay.
I don't think the former minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers has a Carolina Panther logo tattooed on his butt.
Some people are into some weird things.
I'm not judging.
Yeah.
Live your best. He bought it so that the investment would appreciate. He missed on Matt Rule. He missed on 3 consecutive quarterbacks now. The fans the last 2 years have not been showing up. There's been a lot going wrong for his entire tenure as the owner of the Carolina Panthers. He knows that he needs a superstar moment. The hiring of a Harbaugh would galvanize Panthers fans. The hiring of a Peyton would galvanize Panthers fans. And while everybody can talk junk about how much they hate Tom Brady, Brady showing up along with an offensive-minded coach and a young, talented skill set around him behind a good offensive line, you'd see a lot of silver and blue 12 jerseys rolling around Charlotte. And I know that because when Tom Brady got to Tampa Bay, a lot of my Bucs fans that hated Tom Brady, they snatched up those 12 jerseys on the real quick. Tom Brady's jerseys were sold out in Tampa like minutes after he got there. David Tepper is looking for a home run. He is looking for a reason to be able to head down to the streets of Charlotte and walk up to people with blue jerseys on and go, hey, do you like me now? Are you going to buy stuff now? Are you going to watch TV now? Are you going to buy tickets and jerseys and hoodies now? That's going to need a home run hire at coach. And it's going to need a home run pick at quarterback that people are going to galvanize around. That's why he was the first one on the phone with Jim Harbaugh. That's why I will not be shocked in the next 4 or 5 weeks after the Super Bowl is over if the report comes out that David Tepper reached out to Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints to gauge the potential to land him. He needs a stud of a pick. There's his opportunity right there. Let's take a break. We'll get away from Panther talk. When we come back, we'll get some college football in here. Got to get to the NBA for a little bit as well. It's starting to get real good. My name is Rob Brown. The great one, Lonzo, is at the buttons. You're listening to the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Oops. Be right back, guys. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in about a minute. Sorry, I was just talking to myself without knowing that I wasn't back yet. Appreciate you asking, Steven. My diet got absolutely destroyed by the holidays. I gained 10 pounds over the holidays. Not ideal. Chris, Captain America, Chris Evans down the hall, Lonzo and I, starting this weekend, have decided to enter a friendly weight loss competition between the three of us because we all came to the realization that the only thing that works for us is competition. I was doing pretty good in the competition against a girlfriend, but I blew it up during the holidays. I was down 17. I put 10 back on, and I'm now 10 pounds from the heaviest I've ever been in my life. So January is being used for renewal from Rob Brown, not just on the show, but in my personal life. I have lost 2.5 pounds since we got back from Charlotte. And yeah, appreciate you asking. It didn't go great. Happy New Year, Luke. Good to have you, buddy. So yesterday it came out that the NCAA could potentially further expand March Madness and the tournament to as many as 90 teams. The NCAA Division I Transformation Committee. It's a hell of a committee. Anyway, concluded its work with a 22-page report that they released yesterday that recommended a variety of changes to the top level of college sports. A lot of them were little stuff. Some of them were very, very vague. One of them, for instance, said that the authorities, the boards that control each sport, should continue to look for new ways to help modernize college sports. Then it didn't go into any further detail about it. So take it to mean whatever you want it to. But the committee recommended allowing 25% of teams in sports sponsored by at least 200 schools to compete in championship events. That opens the door to a possible expansion of the March Madness tournament from 68 to up to 90 teams, should they decide to follow that path.
When would they start?
Likely, well, the earliest they could would be 2025.
I meant it during the week. They already start like what, on Thursday?
When would the tournament literally start?
It would have to start on Wednesday, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd have to, probably 4 days more, right? Because you're adding what? You'd go from 90, and it obviously it also depends on a
lot of math on the show today.
Well, yes, there is, and I hate it. It would first and foremost depend on the structure that they decide to follow, right? Because you're going from 68 to 90 if they go all the way. Would the additional teams have a mini tournament to get into the big tournament, right? We went from 64 to 68 by adding the 4 play-in games.
So the play-in games would essentially become a play-in tournament.
We don't know. And that's the thing is they just said a suggestion would be allowing up to 25% of competitive teams to enter the tournament of any sport that is sponsored by 200 schools. Basketball, obviously, and there's really only a handful of them of sports that 200 sponsored number would be triggered. But basketball obviously is not just one of them, but the biggest one of them overall. The goal of the committee, according to ESPN, was to, quote, reform the highest and most lucrative level of college athletics, which includes more than 350 schools. The results will be changes that mostly could go unnoticed outside college sports conferences and athletic departments. I will say this. And let me scratch that. Let me start with this. There are some other things involved in this that I actually like. One of the things that was put into the report that was filed yesterday in those 22 pages is NCAA revenue being used to subsidize schools in need of help meeting new expectations for membership. That is to say, if you've got a school that is working towards becoming NCAA recognized to sponsor sports, but they just can't get over the crest, using the NCAA's revenue to help subsidize that. Here's a couple $100 to get you over the hump and get you starting down the road to playing. Among some of the other recommendations that are notable, one of them is to require schools to create a, quote, direct pathway for full-time clinical services of a licensed mental health professional exclusively dedicated to serving student athletes. No problem with that. Effectively having a sports psychiatrist at every school that athletes can go to make sure their mental health and well-being is looked after. Schools and conferences should create student-athlete advisory committees similar to those used by the NCAA to allow athletes to be more involved in decisions. No problem with that. If a sport is going to change at the college level, I think the input, maybe not control, but the input of athletes into those decisions should be at least noted. No issue there. Require more accountability, training, and certification for coaches. Sure. There's nothing wrong with that either. But the big one that's going to get talked about on these stations, although it may or may not be the most important, is the potential expansion of the NCAA March Madness tournament from 68 up to as many as 90 teams. Structure of that, question mark. They didn't offer any guidance on it. They just said that's a recommendation. And by the way, the recommendation might get shot down, so it might not matter at all. The big question is going to be, A, why? And I think we all know the answer to that, right? Thank you very much. Dollar bills, y'all. The second reason is, will it be good for the tournament? And the answer to that is subjective. In college football, would you agree, Lonzo, that the college football playoff has been better when we went from 2 teams to 4? Do you think college football's championships the last few years with 4 teams in the playoffs instead of 2 have been better?
Especially this year.
Especially this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah. Without a doubt. Hell yeah. So you could say expansion creates more competition. More competition is good. But I think there's obviously a massive difference between going from 2 to 4 from going from 68 to 90. That's a big jump.
There are a lot of college basketball teams. Will there end up being some with losing records in the tournament? I mean, it's happened before if they won their tournament for like if they're in the WAC, the MAC, the MEAC, whatever. But there would probably end up having to be some losing teams in there, right?
I mean, I'm going to go maybe. I'll tell you where it does help. It helps teams like Furman, like Wofford. The Southern Conference, we moan and complain, and rightfully so every year, is a 1-bid league. The SoCon Conference champion goes to the dance, and every year there's a second-place team that is every bit as qualified as some of the Power 5 conference losers that don't and get left out. You go to 90 and you have a hell of a SoCon conference championship game between Furman and the Citadel, Furman and East Tennessee State, where you got a 1-point win for a team with identical records, both of whom had a good out-of-conference slate. And one gets to go because they won that game by a single point, and the other gets left out. Now there's room, right? You can go back to last year for that. You can go back to last year for that. You look at the Southern Conference last year, you ended up with Furman checking in what, second place, and Chattanooga at 14-4 in conference and 27-8 overall winning. Furman was 22-12. That's a bubble team. If they pull off that record in, I don't know, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, they're in as conference champs. It'll get some teams in like that. What it's also going to do is create more opportunities for a really good Duke or North Carolina or Gonzaga team to get upset by those teams, right? You're going to have more UMBCs beating Virginias. Is that good or bad? I don't know. My initial knee-jerk reaction was 90's too many. There are not 90 championship caliber college basketball teams every year. There's just not. Every year we talk about bubble teams that get the bubble bursted.
Got the bubble burst. Got the bubble burst up in there.
They're bubble pops. They get the bubble popped. Every year we talk about a couple of bubble teams that get left out. Now those bubble teams would get in. But there's never more than 7, 8 of them. So there's 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that you go, bubble team, could have gone, maybe not. And maybe one of them goes on a Cinderella run. There are not 22 bubble teams. So I really don't know how to feel about it. I know my job is to have a take. I'm working on it. But I don't know that I do yet. On one hand, you are never going to hear Rob Brown complain that there are too many games, right? Did I sit around and watch the Cheez-It Bowl and the Citrus Bowl presented by Cheez-Its and the Barstool Bowl or whatever it was called and the Liberty Bowl and you're damn right I did. You're never going to hear Rob Brown say, oh, that's too many games. And if you expand the March tournament and instead of a 68-team bracket, we get a 90-team bracket and we're going to add 3 more days of basketball to it, hell yeah, let's go. On the flip side, I do worry that there is a spot where there are too many teams and it kind of waters down the tournament a little bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, how many is too many? Every time it's been expanded, it's been, oh, this is way too many, but it's still worked.
When they went from 64 to 68 and they added the playing game, which effectively put 8 more teams.
I love the playing games, though. I do. Those are exciting.
They are some of the best games of the tournament because you got 8 teams playing for their lives. Granted, in the tournament, everybody's playing for their lives, but those 8 teams understand what it means to get invited to a regional. I love those games. So I guess part of it's going to be, let's do it this way. The tournament stays at 64. Teams 1 through 64 in a regional. Then you take teams 65 through whatever number makes the bracket round and even. And you have a pre-tournament tournament, right? The main tournament starts the first or second weekend of March. But for the week leading up to it, you have a pre-tournament tournament. The bubble teams got to fight for their lives to get invited into the big dance, and their punishment for not making it to the tournament outright is that they got to play 2 games before they get there and then go into the 64-team bracket. We have heard a lot of coaches over the years. I heard DA make this point this morning on the DA show. I think it's a good one. Almost every coach says they'd be happy to see the tournament expand. There's a reason for that, though. A coach making the tournament has job security. More teams making the tournament, more coaches making the tournament, more coaches with job security.
In the past, that's been the case, but with there being more teams, does that kind of lessen
Water that down?
Yeah.
Maybe. So that point has always kind of been self-serving, and I think it's fair to say that. The question mark is, if we're going to go to 90, does it water the main tournament down? Is there a way to go to 90 without making it feel like the bracket of 64 is watered down? Do we take and get rid of the current play-in format that takes you from 8 down to 4 and puts those 4 into the regionals to give you 64, and instead of having an 18 play-in, we have a 22-team play-in? And the final 4 of those 22 plug into the final 4 spots of the bracket.
It's going to make it really difficult to fit a bracket on one sheet of paper. By expanding
Well, that's what I'm saying, is we can keep the bracket of 64. We just take the additional teams, right? The Furmans of last year, a team that sat on the bubble and got popped because the SoCon is a 1-bid lead. And now all of a sudden, Furman, along with Samford, and a middle of the ACC NC State team that had 5 losses, but they were only to Duke and Carolina, right? You take those teams and you put them in a pre-tournament tournament. That's 22 teams. They play down to the Final 4, and now those are your teams that would have been the old 68 through 65 that play for the Final 4. Now all of a sudden, those Final 4 that win that pre-tournament tournament. Those Final 4 go into the big bracket of 64, and now the tournament of 64 is unchanged. You're just opening up more play-in games, basically.
All right, I get all that, but at the same time, logistically, it becomes a thing too, because do you expand the first round locations, like where the Well has had some games here? Do you expand that, or is it all in Dayton?
Dayton, Ohio, the center of the basketball universe. I will say this. When the NCAA has potential revenue coming in, additional revenue coming in, people love to ask about logistics. And it's fair, because for a guy like you and me, Zoe, if we got called and said, we need you to host the 22-team basketball tournament, the first question we have to ask is, where the hell are we going to do that? The NCAA, if they were going to host a tournament that's going to have Furman and NC State and ECU and Vanderbilt and South Carolina and Clemson, these mid-conference teams that are always on the bubble every year, and the expanded tournament gives them the chance to get in. If you need a place to play, there's going to be no shortage of cities with the Wells that are going to go, we got that. Send 8 of them our way. We can host 4 games, right? Logistics don't matter when you're talking about $1 million+ sporting events, and this would add millions to the tournament. An extra 3, 4, 5 days of basketball to finalize, to round out the bracket of 64 would absolutely work. So my suspicion is, if the NCAA thumbs up this, the NCAA tournament, which is one of the 2 chief revenue drivers behind the NCAA football playoffs, if the NCAA thumbed it up, it means there's enough money behind it to justify the work that would go into expanding the tournament and getting them there. And if they've done that, and they've got that thumbs up because there's that many millions of dollars there, this is going to happen. About 7-8 years ago, Mark Ryan loves to call me out on this, but about 7-8 years ago, when we were on the show together, I said the NCAA football playoffs will not expand because it's too much of a threat to the Power 5 teams. I've learned my lesson. They don't give a damn.
He always
if it puts
remembers
more in
the bad
coffers.
takes, doesn't he? He's just that's all he remembers.
Welcome to sports radio, baby.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. Coming up later on in the show, I got a few more things that I want to get into. TCU's success can be directly attributed to something that Lonzo hates. What is it? And did TCU's success with that change his mind at all on it? We'll ask that question coming up later on in the show. No change to the NFL's Week 18 schedule. That's the news that broke yesterday. We'll talk about that. We're going to be busy. We got an hour and a segment left, and it's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Sunday on the road at New Orleans. Carolina just 1-6 away from home. They're 6-10-0. The Saints are 7-9-0, winners in 3 straight. Catch every Carolina Panthers game live on Classic Rock 101.1. Download the Odyssey app and search for Fan Upstate on the TV.
So one of my high school teammates just reached out to me to tell me my head football coach just died.
Oh, that sucks.
He was only my coach for my senior year, but I went from being second, third string to starting both ways and on special teams and everything because of that guy. I mean, that dude was awesome.
See that email from Hendricks?
Yes, I was going to mention that too. He was one of those coaches who came in and actually looked at the talent, not, I like this guy, I don't like this guy type of thing. Not saying I was the talent, but I was talented enough to, Like the next year after I left, they were competing for titles and stuff. It's like, man, if I just had one more year with him, who knows, maybe I end up at a D1 school. I would have actually had to put some more effort into it, but
Yeah, if I could go back and speak to 16-year-old Rob, I think the only piece of advice I give would be try harder, dummy.
Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't going to address this, but it's a short segment. So I'm going to. And I'm going to regret it. But that's okay. I've made a lot of decisions that I regret in both my life and career. So let's do it again. After, you don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to say the Delta Bravo word. You're fine. After the Damar Hamlin thing that took place during Monday Night Football, a particular sports talk talking head made a tweet that was, what's the word? Gross, disgusting, horrendous. And there was a lot of heat that was thrown at that cat. Rightfully, deservedly so.
Why are you skipping his name?
Because I understand. Well, I'll explain. That's actually kind of the direction I'm going. Yesterday, that particular talking head hosted a debate show with a former National Football League player who is relatively well known, has a very successful podcast, etc. I'm not going to say his name either. I respect him a little bit more, but I'm not going to say his name because it will drive attention to the other name whose name will not be shown on this. I will tell you.
Which caused me to cross his name off of Twitter trending topics.
Good.
Okay.
Good. I am going to say there were like 3 topics that are banned from this show. The Pete Rose Hall of Fame discussion is one topic that is banned from this show. Another thing banned from this show is that guy's name. So I'm going to go ahead and issue an edict on the Rob Brown show here. I don't do this very often, but I'm going to go ahead and lay down a new rule on the show. And I'm going to pull the my show, my name's on it card. You've never heard me do that, but here it is. If that individual's name gets mentioned on the air, I want the dump button pushed. That's how much I don't want his name on my show. So, this individual made a gross tweet after Damar Hamlin went to sleep on the field. He hosts a debate show alongside a former NFL player. Yesterday, after the gross tweet got him absolutely ratioed to hell and back on Twitter, the NFL player was not on the show. Today, he came back. Yesterday, when the NFL player was not on the show, the host gave a diatribe in which he was so sad about the mistakes that he knows that he made and about how he understands why people took it the wrong way and about how hard it was going to be for him to get through that show because of all of the drama and all of the sadness.
I appreciate your compassion.
Screw that guy. So anyway, today, that NFL player rejoined that show. That NFL player was very aggressive towards the other host. I am going to pull Alonzo here. Guys, it's all a work. It's all a work. You see, that host, for a number of years, has gotten progressively larger contracts to stay on TV precisely because his on-screen character, his kayfabe character, is gross and says gross things and does gross things. Because every time he does it, you go on Twitter, go on Facebook, and you retweet it, and you repost it, and you go, it's so disgusting he would say this. The suits at his company, the guys who make that decision, they don't give a damn what your retweet says. They don't care when you retweet the video with the comment of, this guy should be fired. He's gross. He's despicable. This is unconscionable. They only care that you retweet the video. When they sit down and they look at their analytics and they're going through the sheet, they don't say, this guy got 700,000 retweets, 500,000 negative, and 200,000 positive. They go, he got 700,000 retweets. That's a lot. Now we can sell some advertising. Then they brought back the NFL host today. And the NFL host went after the dude as if he was going to fight him today. I haven't watched it because I'm not going to, because that's one less view they're going to get. But I see it being posted on Twitter all the time. And everybody's like, oh, yeah, that player's back, and he's going to give him the old what for. He's going to give him the old what for. He's going to get him. Guys, it's a work. It's a work. He's not going to fight him because he's getting paid for it too, Jack. He's going to show up. He's going to act real mad. You want to know how I know that this is working out? If there are two guys on the show and one says something gross, one says something disrespectful, one says something ugly, like the host did, and the other one didn't do that, if the suits gave a damn about it, who would have been off the show yesterday? The guy who said the gross thing. The guy who said the disrespectful thing would have been the guy that was off the show. They would have yanked that guy, and they would have sent out the other guy who, didn't do that to respond. Hey, I disagree with my co-host. I think it was disrespectful. I think it was gross. And he's been suspended for a day, a week, a month to think about what he did. But that's not what happened. They didn't do anything because they knew good and damn well that his BS horse crap apology for saying the gross thing was going to get all of y'all to quote tweet it and retweet it and write podcasts and blogs about it, talking about how gross and disrespectful it was. And every one of those was a view. Every one of those was a click. Every one of those was an advertisement that went in front of your face that earned them money. Stop engaging with the trolls. If you don't like a hot take, the best way to get back at that person is to not engage with it. Don't look at it. Don't read at it. Don't share it. Don't quote tweet it. Don't respond to it. Every time that you do that, you give that dude more money. So stop. Stop texting me how much you're enjoying watching the former NFL player get after the host. Guys, it's professional wrestling. That's all it is. It's a work. That's the good guy coming out to give the comeuppance to the bad guy. So you all go, yay, the bad guy got the what for? And you buy another ticket to the next show. That's all it is. Stop giving that gross troll of human being the attention that gets him paid, and he'll go away. And that's the formula. Back after this for the third hour of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Damar Hamlin's marketing rep and friend Drew Root says doctors got some encouraging readings this morning, but did not provide specifics. The Bill State remains intubated in critical condition in the ICU in Cincinnati. Rooney also correcting something that Hamlin's uncle said last night. The only time Hamlin was resuscitated was on the field. Germany game on Monday. The Commanders are expected to return to Taylor Heinicke QB for Sunday's meaningless finale, which Sam Howell should get some snaps as well. Giannis scored a career-high 55 in the Bucks' 123-113 home win of the Wizards last night. And the Kings got a 117-115 W in Utah on a De'Aaron Fox who with 4:10 to the second left. I've heard this before. Zion Williamson is hurt. This time it's a strained right hamstring. The Pelicans will reevaluate him in 3 weeks.
Well, he was healthy for a while for you.
30 points a game in December. And K-State with a 116-103 win at number 6 Texas. A 219 combined points.
Zion's out 3 weeks with a busted hammy.
Would you rather have Zion for half the season or a less talented person, like one level down for an entire season?
Z, because we've got 3 of those guys already. And as long as we're in the top 4 or 5 in the West, I'm fine with it. And I think we'll be there because we're going to get Brandon Ingram back soon, and he can replace a lot of the points that you lose from Zion. Zion's been doing it without the second best guy on the team. The second best guy can carry us enough without the first best guy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Babbel isn't just lessons. You can listen to podcasts, play games, watch videos. You can even take live online classes with a language teacher. There are so many ways to learn with Babbel.
The lessons online and in the app make it easy to learn from pretty much anywhere. University studies have shown that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a semester of college Spanish. If you want to learn a new language, there's no better way than Babbel. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Did you know Ingalls only sells USDA choice and prime cuts of meat? Maybe it's time to reward yourself. Our butchers cut all our meat fresh in the store every day. Grass-fed, organic, you name it. Not only that, we even put it to order just for meat you like. And we grind meat fresh in the store multiple times a day. It's all in the bag. That's the best meat in town for the best folks in town. Ingalls, low prices, love the savings.
Hi, Gary David here, back with Travis Benson, the owner of CNT Foundations. Seeing cracks in your foundation walls or sticking doors and windows? Listen up, homeowners. These problems won't just go away. You need professional help, not a professional salesman. At CNT Foundations, we're real, local, general contractors that provide solutions that last a lifetime. Call 864-581-3341. CNT Foundations, your foundation experts.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Changing your oil. You know, oil change is a great way to reward changes. Right now, you can enter for a daily chance to win a $200 AutoZone gift. You buy 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic and an STP extended life oil for only $38.99. Get the parts you need when you need it at AutoZone or AutoZone.com. No purchase required.
It's not easy being everyone counts on you to keep your operation running.
Come back. Don't let it. It's time. You got 30 seconds. Come on.
There's no point in arguing about something when somebody has such a deep held belief in it that even the best rational argument won't change their mind. It's part of the reason I don't argue politics as much as I used to, because I realize for 85% of people, I can make the best logical argument they've ever heard, but they're so ingrained in the belief that it doesn't matter. They're not going to change their mind, so I'm wasting my breath and time.
But logic to you doesn't always mean correct. It's what you believe is logical.
Logic, by definition, is the best way to arrive at a true statement. The best way to arrive at a true statement is through logic because it eliminates falsities and fallacies, which should be the goal of any conversation. But most people allow emotion to override a logic. This has been Philosophy with Rob. All right, let's start the third hour of the show, and I will do so with an apology. In that last segment, I said something that I regret saying personally. When we were talking about the opening to that segment, I was talking about Damar Hamlin and the cardiac issue that he suffered on the field Monday night during that Bills-Bengals game. Obviously, it was traumatic. Obviously, it was something that affected, I think, the overwhelming majority, if not every sports fan. Certainly impacted everybody that is an NFL fan. And in describing what happened, and in a rush to get to my point, I used a phrase to describe what happened to Hamlin that I traditionally reserve only for MMA fighters and boxers who get knocked out in a fight. And it was obviously not the right phrase to use to describe it. It was unintentional. It was done because I was trying to rush to my point that I was making for the bigger conversation there about the gross TV host. And in the rush to get to where I was going about that host, I said something and described what happened with Damar Hamlin by using a phrase that is typically casual sports talk for a boxing or an MMA fight. I regret it. I sincerely apologize for it to Hamlin and to anybody who was taken aback by that statement describing Damar Hamlin's incident. It was gross. I apologize. It was completely unintentional. It was done in a rush to get to a different point, but I should have thought about my choice of words, and I apologize for it. So for the couple of you guys that texted me about it, you have my sincere apology. For those of you that did not, you have it as well. That was a mistake. It was a poor choice of words done in haste to get to a larger point, and I regret it. So I apologize sincerely to anyone who was taken aback or offended by that. It was not the right choice of words, and I own that. It was my mouth getting ahead of my brain because I was caught up and very passionate about the topic I was trying to get to, and in the rush to set it up, I said something dumb. So I apologize sincerely. It was a mistake, and it will not happen again. That being said, let's get to some of the other stuff I wanted to get to here on the radio broadcast today. It is the Rob Brown Show, live on the Fan Upstate. Rob and Lonzo with you on a day.
Steadily progressing weather-wise towards a sunny day.
I like the optimism. I'm hoping you're right.
Sun's out there somewhere, man.
Somewhere. The sun does exist out there somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. All right. We talked a little bit about the Buccaneers earlier today. We talked about Tom Brady earlier today. Am I off base, Lonzo, for being a little afraid of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC playoffs? Yeah, I look at Philly, I look at Minnesota, and I look at a pair of teams. Minnesota collapses every year in the playoffs. That's just kind of been their MO lately. Philadelphia's good, but without Jalen Hurts, Gardner Minshew has lost a couple, including to a bad Saints team this past weekend.
There's only one team to fear in the NFC, and that's San Francisco 49ers.
Best defense in the game right now.
Yeah, and offense that's getting better all the time.
Yep.
They're utilizing McCaffrey well, and I don't think Debo's back yet, but I think he'll be back in time. Yeah, that's who you need to fear. But who would Tampa Bay play right now? I think it was Dallas, right?
They're the 4 seed, and I think there's a couple of spots that are still up for grabs. So I don't know that we know yet.
Here's the thing.
They are the 4 seed. They can't be anything but the 4 seed.
The NFC South is horrible. It is. It's absolutely horrible. So it's still a bad conference. You won a bad conference. No way Tampa Bay wins a playoff game. There's no way.
Right now, the Buccaneers are the 4 seed at 8-8. They will either finish one game over or one game under 500. They are locked into that 4 seed at this point. The Eagles right now have clinched the playoffs, but not the division. If the Eagles lose this weekend and the Cowboys win this weekend, the Cowboys can go in as the NFC East champion. If they do that, regardless of it's the Eagles or the Cowboys, the 49ers have clinched the NFC West. If they win this weekend and go to 13-3, they could be either tied with the Eagles or the Cowboys, depending on who wins or loses this weekend. The Cowboys have Washington. The Eagles have the Giants. The 49ers
San
have the
Francisco
Cardinals.
needs to thank Steve Wilkes for giving them McCaffrey.
Sure do. The Vikings have clinched the division at 12-4. The Eagles can end at either 13-3, at either 14-3, or they can end at 13-4. The 49ers can end at either 13-4 or 12-5. That is also true of the Vikings and the Cowboys. The Buccaneers will end at either 9-8 or 8-9, but they are the NFC South divisional leaders. As it stands right now, the wild card team will be whoever is left standing as the NFC East runner-up, either the Cowboys or the Eagles. The second wild card right now is held by the New York Giants at 9-6-1. The Seahawks are 8-8. The Lions are 8-8. The Packers are 8-8. Any of those three teams could end up with the second wild card.
Well,
If the
from what I
playoffs-
understood, because I was watching something earlier, if Green Bay wins, they get the wild card.
I believe you are correct, by way of defeating Detroit and jumping ahead of them and having a tiebreaker over Seattle. So Green Bay would go in as the 7 seed. Remember, the only team with a bye is the number 1 overall seed. Green Bay would go in as the 7 seed. The 7 seed would play the 2 seed. As of right now, that's the 49ers. The Vikings would play the 6 seed. As of right now, the Giants. And the Bucs would play the 5 seed. As of right now, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Tampa Bay had, I think, Lonzo, their best offensive performance of the season against the Carolina Panthers this past weekend. Partially because the Panthers were blown up injury-wise defensively without J.C. Horn and a couple of other players. Partially because the defensive coaching staff just did not have a scheme in place to beat Brady.
So look, it's Mike
And they got
Evans.
hot.
Where's he going? Hey, look, it's
To the end zone
Mike
again.
Evans. Where's he going? Hey, maybe we should put an extra guy on him. Maybe.
Yeah, they didn't. He scored again. Either way, the Bucs found a rhythm. The Bucs found a routine. It's something they have not done all season long. Tampa Bay is also, and they've already announced, despite winning the division, despite locking themselves in as the 4 seed, they cannot do any better than the 4 seed. They have got the Atlanta Falcons this weekend, the 6-10 Birds. They are not going to rest their players for the Week 18 finale. Tom Brady and co. will be starting. Now, maybe second half they yank them depending on the score. Maybe it doesn't depend on the score. I don't know. But Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette, they will get the start for Tampa Bay coming up against Atlanta this Sunday. If Tampa Bay comes out against Atlanta and hits that same stride, hits that same rhythm offensively, using the down the field passes and the quick outs to Godwin, down the field to Evans, opening up the doors for Fournette to make some big time runs between the tackles. If that happens, look at the setup they would have. The first round likely against the Dallas Cowboys. By the way, speaking of Philly optimistic that Jalen Hurts will be able to play this weekend. Still up in the air, but optimistic. So let's say the Cowboys, by way of the Eagles having the Giants, I think they're going to be the favorite in that one, even with Gardner Minshew playing. The Cowboys on the road, this is the spot we wait for Dallas to collapse in the playoffs every year, isn't it? Every year. This is the spot we make fun of Dallas for. If Tampa gets Dallas at Ray J, week 1 of the playoffs, that stadium's going to be packed. It's going to be loud. Tampa Bay in the playoffs with Tom Brady and the bandwagon fans will be one of a couple of spots in America where Dallas fans won't make up a significant portion of the spectators in the stadium. If Tampa gets into that sort of rhythm, and Dak and co can't, Tampa can win a playoff game. That would, assuming they beat Atlanta, be a 3-game win streak of important games, right? Of important games. It would be Brady, Evans, Godwin, Fournette, etc., finding their rhythm at exactly the right time. Remember, it's not, well, let me not say remember, my opinion, it's not always the best football team. It's the team that is playing the best when the playoffs starts. Tom Brady and company went 16 weeks looking very pedestrian. Week 17, the offense exploded. The defense has been consistently above average all season long. The offense has been the problem. They found a little bit. If they keep that rhythm against Atlanta, Tom Brady finds new and inventive ways to break hearts every single year. He found a new and creative way to break the hearts of the Carolina Panthers this past weekend. As I mentioned, this is not because Tom Brady did spectacular things that only Tom Brady can do. Tom Brady did what every above-average NFL quarterback could have done. Watch the defense, not scheme for him, and take full advantage of that. There's something in my dumb brain right now, Lonzo, that looks at Brady and the Bucs finding a rhythm as we hit the playoffs, looking at them having a favorable at-home opening round matchup against the Dallas team that consistently crashes and burns in the playoffs every year, and thinking they might find a stride, they might find a rhythm, they might win the first round game, they might have some good offense going, and if they do as the 4 seed, they would likely end up catching Minnesota in week 2. And if they catch Minnesota in week 2 of the playoffs, what is Minnesota known for? Collapsing in the playoffs. If they catch Minnesota in week 2 in the divisional round, they can win that game even on the road. It's indoors at Minnesota, which would set us up for either a Philly or San Francisco NFC championship game. And while I think both of those teams are obviously the pick, gambling-wise, against Tampa Bay, that's when Tom Brady gets the opportunity to do one more Tom Brady thing and win a game in. I don't know why I'm looking at Brady and the Bucs as the NFC South champs in the 4 seed and thinking they hit their stride at the right time to break some NFL hearts in the playoffs.
So usually you have my rapt attention for the entire show, but this is 2 segments about Tom Brady, and I've really struggled.
One of them was about Carolina.
Yeah, but
Tom Brady was
I really struggled near the end of this one to pay attention. Come on. Again, the NFC South is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
They just are. And Tampa Bay is not that good. They're not. They managed to barely win the NFC South when, at the beginning of the season, they were picked to destroy everybody. And it came down to last week for them to win the whole thing a week away from the end of the season, not because there are so many dominant teams in the NFC South, but because everyone's bad. They're not going to beat Dallas. And you're right, Dallas does historically collapse, at least recently. There was a time when they won Super Bowls. I don't remember how long ago that was. Ask a Cowboy fan, they'll tell you. But it still comes down to Tampa Bay is pretty bad. They are. If you watched, and I know you have, some of their games, they're bad. They really are.
I agree with you that they have been bad. I'm not asking you, have they been good? I'm saying, does the way that they decimated in the clutch against the Carolina Panther team, granted a banged up one with some bad defensive schemes.
A Panther team that have won 1 game on the road.
Correct.
I mean, so I can't give Brady and the Bucs that much credit. Carolina won 1 game all year on the road. So it was already a pretty good shot that Tampa Bay was going to win that game anyway. And Carolina could not adjust. Dallas is not going to have that problem because they're better coached and they have better players right now. There's no way Tampa Bay beats Dallas.
No way.
Brady's time in Tampa is over and he's going to the booth.
Is that what they call in Charlotte nowadays? The booth?
That's funny.
Tampa Bay, I'm not saying did. I'm saying may have hit a stride against Carolina. Carolina may, and playing as poorly as they did defensively in the fourth quarter of that football game, a game that they held a 10-point lead with 8 minutes left and then lost the game. Tampa may have gotten a favor from the Panthers. They allowed Brady to find a chemistry with Mike Evans that has been missing since week 4. In doing so, it opens up the field for Chris Godwin. As I pointed out on that breakdown, you can go see it at the Facebook page at the Fan Upstate on Facebook. When Evans is in a groove, it clears the field for Chris Godwin. Mike Evans was in the grooviest of grooves against the Panthers on Sunday. What did it do? It opened up the field for Godwin. Everybody's talking about the 204 and 3 touchdowns from Mike Evans as if Godwin didn't go for up over, what was it, $114 as well? That happened because Evans was clearing spaces for Godwin, who is remarkably good at sitting in them. And Brady, if he doesn't see Evans, knows where Godwin's going to be. If they found chemistry against Carolina and they catch Dallas, a team known for choking late, and then Minnesota, a team known for choking in the playoffs, there's back-to-back friendly setup games for the Buccaneers in the playoffs, one of them at home with a Brady who has found his rhythm. I don't know why I'm looking at Tampa and thinking this might be the most favorable playoff setup he could have asked for, and he's going to surprise people, but I'm thinking it's a possibility.
I hate to do that cliche thing, that thing that sports guys do, but I'm going to. It wasn't that Brady played so well. It's that the Panthers played so bad. And you said it was a gift. It absolutely was a gift. Hey, have a touchdown. You know what? That looked pretty. Have another one. Hey, you know what? Have another one. The defense played so bad for the Panthers, it made Brady look like he was, 40. It was the Panthers playing poorly on defense that led to that victory, that led to them winning the South and making it into the playoffs. And I think it's one of those things where no one wants to be in the playoffs. No one's afraid of Brady. They're not. Or if you want to be, say it a different way, no one's afraid of the Buccaneers. If you get up enough scores on them, they're not going to come back. Brady can come back with a couple minutes left to win on a game-winning drive. But if you get up enough and actually play some defense against them, they're not good. They're not.
We're going to find out. Speaking of the devil, look who's on TV. Old Tommy Boy himself.
Why'd I look? I got baited.
Let's take a break. Come back.
I wonder what Skeletor's talking about.
Got a few more things to get into on the radio broadcast today. If you want to jump on board, now is your opportunity. 844-FAN-PHONE. 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. Or hit us up on the text line at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we'll read them on the air. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Well, I hope they recognize my voice and are willing to come at me because I don't care. They're horrible.
Which means Brandon's got us on at one of the busiest restaurants and bars in Destin. If you want to yell something loudly at the Tampa fans in the audience there, Zoe.
I think I've said enough.
People here are raving about QC Kinetics and how regenerative medicine has changed their life. People like Helen, an avid mountain climber who got sidelined when an accident left her knees in constant pain.
I was not able to train or do really anything on my knees.
Helen was told surgery would be her only option, but then she found QC Kinetics and was treated with natural biologics designed to repair and restore tissue in her knees. 3 months later, she was climbing the highest mountain in North America.
I got a very quick resolution to my game. I began treatment in March. I summited Denali June the 7th. Super successful, and I recommend everyone seek out QC Kinetics as an alternative to surgery.
Get your life back with lasting results. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Call QC Kinetics today.
Call QC Kinetics, 864-448-3772. 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772. 864-448-3772.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job in ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
This feature is sponsored by
Hey, Rob, remember me when you're in Little Rock, okay?
If I ever end up in Little Rock, Arkansas, it's because either something went dramatically wrong or I've been hired as the voice of the Razorbacks. There is no in between.
Listen to In the Huddle, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast.
Sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. What makes AutoZone America's #1 battery destination? Because they offer free battery testing and charging and reliable replacement batteries.
Dion tweeted himself in the snow video. He looks cold. He looks really cold. It would take a lot of money to get me to go north again. I like the fact that it's going to be, 50s and 60s here.
Yeah, but like next Tuesday, it's going to be 32 again.
It's still not.
Don't tease me, fake spring.
Still not a wind chill below 50.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Alonso with you. Let's talk about TCU for a second. Not specifically, specifically the football team. Not specifically their win over Michigan. But I wanted to talk about this. Last year, the TCU Horned Frogs finished their season at 5-7. Over the past 4 seasons, TCU was 23-24. Gary Patterson, the legendary TCU head coach, was fired from TCU because of how poor that team has been. They hired Sonny Dykes, expecting a rebuild of the TCU program. Instead, TCU is 5 days away from lining up against the Georgia Bulldogs and playing for a national championship. After Patterson got fired by TCU, almost immediately TCU saw 15 players transfer out of the portal, including 4 high-end 4 or 5-star recruits that were expected to be playmakers at TCU. It looked at the time like the transfer portal was going to create a massive setback for Sonny Dykes and the Horned Frogs. Instead, TCU went from a program in the middle of the Big 12, a team that was not even expected to stay ranked, a team that, if I recall correctly, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 40,000 to 1 to win a natty this year. Again, still got to beat Georgia. But if you put down a buck at 40K to 1, you got some beer money this weekend, is all I'm saying. Sonny Dykes decided to hit the portal. Sonny Dykes decided, all right, we got 15 going out. Let's see what we can bring in. He added 13 players via the transfer portal, one of the largest incoming portal classes of last year. Sonny Dykes did an interview with The Athletic where he said, quote, had we not been able to add those 13 transfers, we would have been in trouble defensively, end quote. Now, in years gone by, Sonny Dykes would have probably needed to string 3 or 4 or 5 consecutive big-time high school recruiting classes to get anywhere close to sniffing the success that TCU is having this year. Instead, there's about 100 young men wearing a horned frog on the side of their helmet that are playing for a national championship this year. Some of them who were playing for other schools where they absolutely would not have had that opportunity. Some of them, maybe not even the opportunity to play at all, who are playing impact positions for TCU. The transfer portal made TCU this year. What did it accomplish? Well, Max Duggan was a Heisman Trophy finalist, probably should have won the award. Sonny Dykes is your 2022-23 NCAA football coach of the year. The TCU Horned Frogs beat the number 2 team in the country and are now playing for a national championship. The transfer portal does a lot of things, some good, some bad. All have to be addressed. But one of the good things it has done, in my opinion, has increased the parity of college football. On one hand, there were 3 powers that be, 3 traditional college football powerhouses that made it to the NCAA college football playoffs. Ohio State has been here before. Michigan has been here before. The Georgia Bulldogs have been here before and are coming off of a natty win last year. TCU has not won a natty since 1938. The last time TCU was able to play for a title, schools were still segregated. Football was not yet integrated. Now TCU, a middle of the pack in a doomed Big 12, is about to play for a natty. And it is because of the transfer portal. Without the transfer portal, schools like Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Bama, etc., have been able to hoard talent. They've been able to go get the best. They've been able to go get the really good. And they've been able to stockpile the really good on the bench, giving them an opportunity to not play football for any significant amount of time. And also, more importantly, keeping schools like TCU from being able to get the good, the guys that can come in, work a little harder, have a little bit more of the intangibles behind him, and make improbable runs to playoff appearances like TCU. That, in my opinion, is good for college football. It is good that even though the mainstays are going to still be there, Georgia's going to be doing this for the next couple of years. Bama's not going anywhere. Ohio State's not going anywhere. Much to the chagrin of the great one, Michigan ain't going anywhere. Unless Jim Harbaugh does, and then maybe they do go somewhere, but we'll find out. The point is, the powers that be in the world of college football, they're still going to be. They're still going to get the best recruiting classes. They're still going to be up towards the top of the recruiting rankings every year. In fact, let's take a quick look. Who are your recruiting class rankings favoring right now? According to 24/7 Sports, here are your top 10. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Miami, Oklahoma, Ohio State, LSU, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Clemson. Following them, Oregon, A&M, Florida, Penn State, USC wrap up the top 15. Let's expand it to 16 to point out that South Carolina is at 16, just behind USC and Penn State. The powers that be are always going to stock the recruiting class. Alabama has 7 5-star incoming recruits. Georgia has 2. Texas has 4. Miami has 3. Oklahoma has 3. Ohio State has 1. LSU has 1. Tennessee has 1. Clemson has 1. Oregon has 2. A&M has 2. Penn State has 1. SC has 3. You got to go all the way down to 19 FSU to find the next one. They have 1. And UCLA has 1 at number 37. And that's it. In the top 50, that's all the 5 stars. They are conglomerated at the top of the recruiting rankings. The recruiting rankings dominated by the mainstays. I'm not a big recruiting guy, not a big recruiting guru. I don't follow it, but I am not an idiot. And I recognize that national championship participants are teams that very frequently find themselves inside the top 7 or 8 recruiting rankings for 3 or 4 years in a row. TCU ain't one of those teams. In fact, TCU has next year's 18th highest recruiting class. And keep in mind, with 0 5-stars and 10 4-stars, a chunk of those recruits only got interested because TCU was a blown game against Kansas State away from being an undefeated Big 12 champion and one of the top 2 teams in the country. Instead, they dropped only the Big 12 championship and they checked in 3rd. The transfer portal is the number 1 and most direct reason that TCU has upset the balance, has added a little parity to the college football playoffs. Lonzo told you they don't belong. A lot of media told you they don't belong. The reason why, in my opinion, not for Lonzo, but for all the other dummies, is because they're not a traditional powerhouse. They just felt out of place. A lot of people looked over what TCU had done on the field, offensively with Max Duggan and defensively, which I'm going to point out in a Rob Brown breakdown that will premiere tonight after I edit it again for another 2.5 hours. A lot of people overlooked that because TCU is just not a Bama, not a Georgia, not a Texas, not an Oklahoma, not an Ohio State, not an LSU, not a Notre Dame, not a traditional powerhouse. But they used the portal. They used it well. They brought in a bunch of cats who were not going to get the opportunity to play elsewhere, who are still really good players, gave them their chance to play, and they rewarded TCU with a trip to the Natty. The transfer portal makes college football better, not worse.
All I can say is, yes, I was wrong about TCU, but Michigan lost, so I'm okay with it.
The best part about Lonzo is that he's not petty at all. It's my favorite part.
No, I not. No.
Texas says, do you think because of this, there will be a cutoff for the transfer portal sooner than later, like there is a trade deadline in the NFL? That's from Luke. Luke, appreciate that question. The portal already has 2 windows in it, right? Was it like December 1st and then February or whatever it is? There's already a portal deadline. There is an entry date where you may enter your name in the portal. And then there's a portal cutoff date where you either have to be on scholarship or you stay in the portal and you're unavailable, right? And obviously, yes, for those of you that have asked me the question, if you enter your name in the portal and then you decide not to go to another team, if your school that you left from to go into the portal allows you, you can come back to that school. You are not obligated to leave. In fact, we have seen it before where a player enters the portal and then decides, you know what? Never mind. For whatever reason. And the school says, you're welcome back.
Wouldn't you bench that guy? I mean, I'd make that guy earn his spot back.
That is one of those things that's very easy to say when you don't have $1 million+ paycheck tied up in wins and losses, right? It's very easy to say on principle, hell yeah, I'd bench that guy, make him earn a spot back. It's a lot more difficult if I'm getting paid $3.5 million a year and getting that paycheck scratched is dependent on win or lose. And I got a 5-star guy that tested the portal, didn't get what he wanted and wanted to come back and can help me win. In fact, I found it very interesting when talking about guys in the transfer portal. Shane Beamer, in the lead up to the Gator Bowl, said he first off, and I think this is the right way to handle it, or at least how I would handle it. Every time a player hit the portal, Shane Beamer went on his way to say, hey, no hard feelings. We wish that guy the best of luck. We appreciate everything he did here in Columbia, and we hope whatever he's looking for, he finds. But the other thing that he did, and I think this is a good way to handle it in my opinion, the other thing that he did was to tell kids who went into the portal, if you go in the portal, you were not playing in the bowl game. If you go in the portal for a day and then you decide to come back to South Carolina, you will be welcome back in Columbia, but you will not play in the bowl game. That'll be your punishment for hitting the portal. And I frankly think that's fair, right?
Yeah, that's not bad. That works.
Yeah. Because now what you've done is you've given a punishment to the player. They can't play in the bowl game. But
why you put it is a punishment. It absolutely is a punishment.
Sure.
Well, you're rolling your eyes. So what you're saying is the bowl doesn't matter?
Yeah, I've been saying that. I will say literally the bowl does not matter. You know what the biggest takeaway for South Carolina was? Had nothing to do with what happened on the field. You know what the biggest takeaway for me from the Gator Bowl was? That there were about 70,000 South Carolina fans in Jacksonville. That it was about 3-1 Gamecock fans to Irish fans in Jacksonville, and that if you were a recruit watching on TV and South Carolina was in your final 3 or 4 or 5, you looked and went, damn, that's a good fan base. Damn, that's a good attitude, atmosphere around that program. And if you are looking for the glory, if you are looking to hear your name chanted by the adoring masses, South Carolina in the bowl game showed you their fans are going to show the hell up. It's about a 7.5, 8-hour ride down to Jacksonville. Shane Beamer even tweeted out how bad the traffic was, begging for Gamecock fans to still show up in the worst city in America. And they did. Gamecock fans are so dedicated, they went to Jacksonville and had a good time. The biggest takeaway had nothing to do with the game. It didn't matter if South Carolina won that game by 10 or lost it by 10. The big win was that they put on a hell of a show for potential recruits. That's what you're looking for. Did that game matter? No. Doesn't matter. It mattered in that it got you 15 extra practice days. It mattered that it let your team be around each other for another couple of weeks. It mattered that it gave you some extra XP to level up some guys. It mattered that it gave you an opportunity to maybe test out some new stuff, to try out guys in different positions. Did the results of the game have a direct impact? Are we ever going to look back at the trajectory of South Carolina football and go, you know, it all really swang after the Notre Dame Gator Bowl? No. No, we're not going to do that because it didn't, and it won't. But as far as the portal goes, to circle back around to the beginning of this conversation before we take a break, it has increased the parity in college football. Every year you're going to see a TCU. Hopefully. Every year you're going to see a Cincinnati. You're going to see a Louisville. You're going to see a this. You're going to see a that. You're going to see a the other. You're going to see a non-traditional powerhouse who manufactures a phenomenal portal class like Sonny Dykes did for TCU. They are going to navigate those waters, and they are going to end up on Treasure Island. That's what happened for TCU and Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes is a good coach. I love what they are doing defensively, offensively, Like I said, I think Max Duggan should have won the Heisman. A lot of that comes from having a coach who understands how to play to a QB's strengths and weaknesses. Sonny Dykes and TCU did that. Phenomenal coach. But Sonny Dykes would be entering year 2 of a rebuild with a lower tier bowl win if it wasn't for the kids he picked up out of the portal. And now instead, they're playing for a natty, and we've got a bowl game for a national championship that I think people are interested in. We'd all watch if it was Georgia, Michigan. We'd all watch if it was Ohio State, Michigan. We'd all watch if it was Georgia, Bama, Michigan, Bama, Ohio State, Bama. But there's a difference between I'm watching because it's the natty and I'm interested because it's the natty. TCU galvanizes a lot of America into having a rooting interest in this game. We are rooting for a non-traditional powerhouse to get one over on the defending champs. We're not rooting for this if this is Michigan or Ohio State or Bama or anybody else. But we've got a sleepy underdog story that America loves, and we have it because of the transfer portal. Let's take a break. We'll come back, put this show to bed. My name is Rob. He's Lonzo. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. No, it's all good, Luke. Listen, I don't care how you participate in the show. I just want you to participate in the show. And I appreciate you doing it. Thank you very much. TCU ain't faced a stud baller like Stat. Obviously, Brandon wasn't listening to the show yesterday. Yeah, Grayson McCall entered the portal, decided he didn't want to transfer. He is now back at Coastal Carolina. Do you think that the new Coastal coach was unhappy to bring Grayson McCall back? Hell no. Hell no. If Grayson called and said, hey, new coach, I want back in to Myrtle Beach. Yes. Come on back. Come on back.
This is Joe Cordell at the law firm Cordell & Cordell. When the prospect of divorce becomes a reality, you need a partner that you can count on. If you're a man in this situation, consider contacting Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men navigate complex legal matters for 30 years. Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Greenville area attorneys. 55 Beatty Place, Suite 900, Greenville, South Carolina, 29601. Joseph Cordell, licensed in Missouri and Illinois only. Online at CordellCordell.com.
For everything your business needs to make this year your year, Staples has you covered.
I need to organize all my papers and files from last year and the year before that.
Staples has you covered.
I need to clear clutter from my office, and my home office, and my home.
Staples has you covered with everything you need to get organized this year at amazing savings. Right now at Staples, get up to 50% off select file folders, file cabinets, file boxes, and storage bins. Make this year your year at Staples.
Seen a bunch of posts of lightning strikes on Twitter, which makes me not want to go outside. Yeah, I know lightning can come in a building, but still.
I have to tell you, I had a phone conversation with Cody Decker yesterday. You know, he's hosting the co-hosting the Craig Carton
Yeah,
show
I
on
saw him
FS1.
this morning, and they something was said that I'm wondering if Carton gets kicked off the air. I just happened to tune in to see it.
Carton's a spark plug.
Yeah,
He is.
it was something.
He's wired.
It was
constantly.
very off color. It was pretty boring to that point. And I'm like, what? Whoa.
Yeah, Carton's a wild card.
He cracked Cody up with it to where he was kind of doing one of these.
I watched the replay. He said that Cody obviously co-hosts, but they've also moved him into a producer's role. So he sits down on the producer meetings, helps them come up with topics and whatnot. He said the other day after they made their rundown for the show, gave it to Craig. He said that Craig Carton looked at it. There was a segment that was titled Cody versus Craig, debate segment. He said Craig picked up the rundown 2 minutes before the air, picked up the rundown, saw that, went, F this, crumpled it through to where he said, we're not a debate show. Let's just talk. And they just riffed on the show. Not even about the topic they were supposed to talk about. And I was like, you know what? I appreciate that. Like, I appreciate a dude going, we don't need to fake a debate. Let's just talk.
Hey, look at your Twitter real quick. Just one thing. I want to know if you saw it. There are two things, but the latest one. It'll only take a second.
Yeah, I'm looking. Oh. 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 Can I just say before we get to Twitter trending topics to wrap up the show? There's a short list of things that I don't bleep with. Electricity is at the top of that list. Okay? Especially electricity that comes from the sky. Lonzo just sent me a clip of the JR Motorsports number 7 trailer sitting outside of a building. I don't know where it is. They got a ring cam pointed at it. And a bolt of lightning just comes down and pops a truck that's behind the trailer. Y'all, stay the hell out of the lightning. All right? Just stay the hell out of the lightning.
Yeah, I saw some bolts like that on my way in this morning, to the point where I'm thinking, okay, if that strikes a tree and that tree falls in front of me or on me, I am done.
I took the dog out at 6:15 this morning. And there was a bolt of lightning that hit. It was one of those so close that, like, there was no delay between the lightning and the thunder. It was just lightning. There was a lightning bolt close to my house so bad that you almost got a text going, I'm on StreamYard today. I'll be on the stream today. And the only reason I didn't do that is because I knew if the lightning hit that close to my house, there was a chance I'd lose power and I'd be in real trouble. But I don't bleep with electricity, and I certainly don't bleep with lightning.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter Trending Topics.
Got to be careful what you bleep with. This
Ooh.
is the what?
That other thing you just sent me.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like we got to say that before we get to.
Or we
Twitter,
could save it for the views from Mint Street podcast. I mean,
I think this is both ways. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the thing, and then we're going to record views from Mint Street after the show today, and you'll want to download to hear the rest of the details. But Sports Illustrated reporting that Jim Harbaugh has shot down the idea that he is leaving Michigan to return to the NFL. Will Kunkel of Charlotte Sports reported yesterday that Harbaugh had the conversation with David Tepper. That was not an interview, and I almost pulled a finger air quoting that, but Harbaugh apparently had a conversation with Queen City News in which he said, quote, although no one knows the future, I think I will be coaching Michigan next year, end quote. And that's not committal.
Yeah, no one knows the future, and I think I'll be. He also says he likes the roster.
That's weak.
He also says he likes the roster. I saw that in
At
there.
Michigan or Charlotte?
For
Carolina.
the Panthers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
All right, time for Twitter trending topics. The first thing that's trending,
It's Jim Harbaugh.
well, Ron Rivera.
Ron Rivera. I like Ron Rivera. He seems like a good dude. Anyway, Ron Rivera has been making a viral round because during a presser the other day, he was talking about switching up the quarterback position from Carson Wentz back to Taylor Heineke. And a reporter went, and this was Sunday after their game, but before the afternoon games, what if you guys get eliminated today? And Ron went, we can get eliminated today? The reporter's like, yeah, if Dallas wins, you guys are bounced. And Ron was like, oh, I didn't know that. Not a great look to be the head coach and not know the playoff scenarios around your team.
Well, he has assistant coaches for that. The next thing that's trending is David Tepper.
David Tepper trending, obviously, because of what we just talked about. Had a conversation yesterday with Jim Harbaugh, and the reports were coming out that Harbaugh would take an NFL job if he was offered one. Harbaugh, now quoted by the Queen City News, is saying, no one knows the future, but I think I will be coaching Michigan next year, which is the same as saying, scratch the check and I'll see you in Charlotte, baby.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting out of it. All right, the last thing that's trending is Mercedes Moné.
Mercedes Moné, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Sasha Banks, made her appearance, the first appearance since August, in a wrestling ring this weekend or yesterday when she showed up in New Japan / Star Wrestling, which is the I believe the female offshoot of New Japan. But she showed up to challenge for a championship belt. The best part about it was she put out a bunch of thank yous on Twitter. She thanked Paul Levesque, the real name of Triple H. She thanked WWE. And then to wrap it all off, and trust me, if there's one thing that I got out of Sasha Banks, it is being a legend in your own mind. Sasha Banks made sure to go out of her way to thank Sasha Banks.
Yes.
For her contribution to Sasha Banks. Anyway, I'd like to thank a couple of people. I'd like to thank Lonzo for his hard work on the show today. I'd like to thank all of you for listening. And I'd like to thank me for giving you a show to listen to.
No, you got to thank Rob Brown. As Rob Brown, you got to thank Rob Brown. I mean,
You're
that's
right.
That's how you do that.
Kind of doesn't do the same thing if you don't do it in third person. Rob Brown would like to thank Rob Brown for the Rob Brown Show. We're out. Y'all have a great rest of your afternoon. I sincerely thank you for listening. We're back tomorrow to do it all over again and better on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later, brother.
I thought the same thing, Luke.
I mean, maybe, but I don't see Ron as that guy.
He is more sarcastic than you think. Trust me.
Luke said, what is the likelihood that recruits take a lesser deal to prove themselves and use the portal to transfer out sophomore, junior? Really good. The other angle of that, and I probably should have brought this up, is that the portal does both work both ways. If you get recruited to a TCU because Georgia don't want you, and you go to TCU and you dominate, and then Athens is available for you in the portal, you can upgrade your career as well. An upgrade for a guy who's not going to play at Georgia to be a starter at TCU is the inverse of the upgrade who's a starter at TCU, but he's better than that, and he goes to play for a Georgia. It works well both directions.
What?
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for listening. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.